Some books entertain, some books inform, but a rare few transform you. These are the books that shift your perspective, rewire your thinking, and stay with you long after you've turned the last page. Books that challenge you, heal you, and make you see the world differently tonight. Let their wisdom guide you. As you drift into sleep, let these pages unlock new ideas, new possibilities, maybe even a new version of you. This is 100 life-changing books to fall asleep to. Let's begin. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie. Most people drift through life unaware of the invisible forces shaping every relationship, every opportunity, every door that opens or stays shut. They believe success is about talent, about intelligence, about being the loudest voice in the room. And yet, time and time again, they watch others, seemingly ordinary people, win admiration effortlessly, build unshakable networks, and influence without force. What's their secret? Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People is not just a book, it is the key to unlocking human nature. It reveals a truth so simple, so obvious, that most overlook it entirely. People don't care about you, they care about how you make them feel. At its core, this book dismantles everything you thought you knew about communication. Influence is not about being the smartest, the strongest, or the most accomplished. It's about making others feel seen, heard, and valued. It's about understanding that every person you meet is the protagonist of their own story, and the only way to win them over is to genuinely care about their story. Carnegie reveals the hidden language of human nature, how a simple smile can break down barriers, how remembering a name can make a person feel important, how listening intently can build loyalty stronger than words ever could. He teaches that arguments don't change minds, understanding does, that people don't respond to logic, but to emotion, that the surest way to influence someone is not to push, but to pull, to inspire, not to demand. But this book is not about manipulation, it is about sincerity. Influence built on deception crumbles, but influence built on genuine care lasts a lifetime. The lessons Carnegie teaches are not tricks. They are principles, guidelines for becoming the kind of person others want to be around. And once you embrace these lessons, the world will change. Conversations will no longer feel like battles, but bridges. Strangers will become allies. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach will suddenly open before you. Because in the end, success is not about what you know, it's about who you know, and more importantly, how you make them feel. This is more than a book. It is the roadmap to a life of deeper connections, greater influence, and boundless possibilities. Once you read it, you will never see people lure yourself the same way again. Meditations, Marcus Aurelius. Most people live at the mercy of the world. Their moods rise and fall with the opinions of others. Their happiness depends on things beyond their controls: success, wealth, status, the approval of strangers. When life is good, they are content. When hardship strikes, they crumble. They search endlessly for peace, but they search in the wrong places. But what if peace was never out there? What if it was something you could cultivate within, something unshakable, something that no amount of misfortune could take away? Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is not just a book, it is a weapon against chaos. It is a private journal, written not for an audience, but for the emperor himself, a man who ruled the most powerful empire on earth, yet sought no luxury, no praise, no indulgence. He sought only wisdom, and in these pages he left behind a blueprint for resilience, a manual for inner strength, a path to a life free from suffering. At its core, Meditations teaches a single life-changing truth. You cannot control the world, but you can always control your response to it. Pain is inevitable. Betrayal is inevitable. Loss, failure, injustice, all of these will come. But Aurelius reminds us, none of these have the power to harm you unless you let them. The only thing that truly belongs to you, the only thing that can never be taken away, is your own mind. And once you learn to master that, you become untouchable. The world may rage around you, but you will remain calm. People may insult you, but their words will no longer reach you. Hardships may arise, but they will no longer feel like punishments. Instead, they will become tests, opportunities to prove your strength, to sharpen your character, to grow. But meditations is not just about endurance, it is about living fully, with intention, with clarity, with purpose. Aurelius warns that time is slipping away, that every moment wasted in anger, distraction, or self-pity is a moment lost forever. He urges us to act now, to stop waiting for happiness, to stop fearing failure, to stop letting the opinions of others dictate our lives. Happiness, he teaches, is not found in chasing pleasure. It is found in virtue and wisdom, in discipline, in doing what is right, no matter the cost. And once you internalize these lessons, life will never be the same again. The small frustrations that once consumed you, traffic, insults, disappointments, will lose their power. The anxieties that once ruled you, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of loss, will fade into nothing. You will no longer be a prisoner of circumstance. You will no longer be ruled by emotion. You will stand unmoved, unshaken, indifferent to what is beyond your control, yet fully present in every moment, because true power is not found in riches or reputation. True freedom is not found in status or success. True power is self-mastery, and meditations is the path to it. Once you read it, once you truly understand, it will never see the world or yourself the same way again. Man's search for meaning. Viktor E. Frankl. Everything is taken from you: your home, your freedom, your dignity. What remains? When you are stripped of comfort, of certainty, of even the basic expectation of survival, how do you go on? And more importantly, why do you go on? Most people believe they would break under unbearable suffering, that there is a limit to human endurance, a point where pain becomes too much, where hope vanishes and the will to live dissolves. But Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, discovered something astonishing. The body can be starved, the mind can be tortured, but as long as a person has meaning, their spirit remains unbroken. Man's search for meaning is not just a book. It is a confrontation with the raw, brutal reality of human suffering, a journey through the darkest depths of existence, and a revelation that within that darkness, meaning is still possible. It is a story of survival, but not in the way you think. Frankl was imprisoned in Auschwitz, one of history's most horrific death camps. He watched as men stronger than him collapsed, as hope faded from the eyes of those who could no longer see a reason to live. He saw that the difference between those who perished and those who endured was not simply luck, nor physical strength, it was purpose. A man who had a reason to live, be it the dream of seeing his family again, the desire to finish his life's work, or even the simple decision to face death with dignity, was far more likely to survive than the man who saw no meaning in his suffering. He who has a why to live can endure almost anyhow. This was the truth Frankl discovered in the depths of suffering, that no matter how much is taken from us, we always have one last freedom, the freedom to choose our response. The Nazis could control his body, but they could not control his mind. They could take his possessions, but they could not take his attitude. They could strip him of everything: his profession, his status, even his name, but they could not strip him of his choice to see suffering as meaningful. And that is the lesson this book forces upon you. Because even though you are not in Auschwitz, you will suffer. Life will break you. It will take things from you. You will lose people you love. You will face failure, heartbreak, illness, injustice. And when that moment comes, you will have a choice: to give in to despair or to find meaning within it. But what is meaning? Most people believe meaning is something that happens to them, that it is found in achievements, in wealth, in recognition. Frankl shatters this illusion. Meaning is not something the world gives you. It is something you give to the world. It is something you create. For some, meaning is found in love, reason to endure, to fight, to keep going. For others, it is found in work, in contributing to something greater than themselves. Some find it in faith. Others in suffering itself, in proving that even in the worst conditions, they can still act with integrity, still hold on to their values, still refuse to let the cruelty of the world turn them into something lesser. Frankl calls this logotherapy, the idea that human beings are driven not by pleasure, not by power, but by meaning, and meaning is something that must be discovered, not given. The moment you understand this, suffering loses its grip on you. Pain, loss, failure, all of it stops feeling like a punishment and starts feeling like a test. A question the universe is asking you: will you break or will you rise? This book does not comfort you. It does not offer easy answers. It does not promise happiness. Instead, it forces you to ask yourself a question that will haunt you forever. What meaning have I given to my life? And once you ask that question, you cannot unask it. You cannot return to the illusion that suffering is meaningless, that hardship is random, that your response does not matter. Because once you understand that suffering itself can have meaning, you will never suffer the same way again. This is not just a book. It is a mirror, a challenge, a wake-up call. And once you turn the final page, you will not be the same person who started it. Because once you know the truth that meaning is the ultimate survival mechanism, you will never face suffering the same way again. The Art of Happiness. Dalai Lama and Howard Cutler. Most people believe happiness is something they must earn, something they will find one day after they achieve their goals, after they become successful, after they finally fix everything that is wrong in their lives. They treat happiness like a reward, always just out of reach, always waiting in the future, always contingent on something else. But what if happiness was never out there? What if it was not something to be chased, but something to be cultivated? What if the real secret to happiness had nothing to do with what you have or what happens to you, and everything to do with how you train your mind? That is the central message of The Art of Happiness. It is not just a book about joy, it is a blueprint for inner peace, a conversation between two worlds, the timeless wisdom of the Dalai Lama and the modern psychological insights of psychiatrist Howard Cutler. Together, they unravel one of the greatest illusions of human life. Happiness is not a product of circumstances. It is a product of perspective. At its core, the book teaches that suffering is inevitable, but misery is optional. Pain, disappointment, loss, these things will come. They are part of life. But how we respond to them, that is something we can control. And in that control lies the key to lasting happiness. The illusion of external happiness. Dalai Lama dismantles one of the greatest myths of the modern world, the belief that happiness comes from success, wealth, or pleasure. Most people spend their entire lives chasing the next big thing, believing this will be what finally makes them happier. Better job, a bigger house, a new relationship, a certain amount of money. But even when they get what they want, the feeling fades. The satisfaction never lasts, and so they keep running. But the Dalai Lama offers a radical alternative. Stop running. Stop believing that happiness is something waiting for you in the future. Instead, realize that it is something you can create right now by shifting the way you think, by training your mind to see life differently, by choosing inner contentment, over external craving. The power of compassion and gratitude of the book reveals that true happiness is not found in selfish pursuits, but in compassion for others and for yourself. The more we focus on ourselves or our problems, our disappointments, our desires, the more miserable we become. But the moment we turn our attention outward, the moment we start practicing kindness, gratitude, and understanding, something shifts. Science now proves what Buddhism has taught for centuries. Gratitude rewires the brain, making happiness easier to sustain. Forgiveness frees the mind, preventing resentment from poisoning our peace. Compassion reduces stress and increases emotional resilience training. The mind, through meditation, creates a foundation of lasting contentment, allowing us to remain calm even in chaos. Cutler, through his psychiatric expertise, confirms that the happiest people are not the wealthiest or the most successful. They are those who have learned how to find meaning in life, regardless of their circumstances. Those who have mastered their own minds, breaking the cycle of suffering most. People live in a state of craving always, needing more, always fearing loss, always waiting for the perfect moment when happiness will finally arrive. But the Dalai Lama challenges this illusion. He shows that the real cause of suffering is attachment to people, to possessions, to expectations. The more tightly we cling to things, the more we suffer when they change. And everything will change. The secret, he teaches, is acceptance. Not passive resignation, but an active embrace of life as it is, rather than as we wish it to be. When we stop resisting reality, when we learn to let go of expectations, to stop chasing and start appreciating, peace follows. This is why some people who have nothing still radiate joy, while others who have everything are filled with anxiety. Because happiness has never been about what you have. It has always been about how you think. The Art of Happiness is a choice. The book does not tell you to ignore suffering. It does not pretend that pain does not exist. Instead, it teaches you how to navigate suffering with grace, how to cultivate a mindset that is resilient in the face of loss, how to build a happiness that is not dependent on external forces. Most people will spend their lives searching for happiness in things that cannot provide it. They will chase pleasure, status, wealth, validation. But the ones who truly find happiness are those who understand this simple truth. Happiness is not something you find, it is something you create, and that is what the Art of Happiness offers: a path, a guide, a philosophy that, once understood, will change not just how you feel, but how you live. Because once you master the art of happiness, you will never need to chase it again. Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. Robert B. Cialdini. Most people believe they make their own decisions, that their choices are logical, rational, and fully under their control. But the truth is far more unsettling. Every day, without realizing it, you are being influenced. Every ad you see, every conversation you have, every small interaction in your life is subtly shaping your thoughts, your preferences, your behavior, and the scariest part, you don't even notice it. Robert Cialdini's Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion is not just a book, it's a revelation, a map of the hidden forces that dictate how we think and act. It exposes the psychological triggers that marketers, politicians, salespeople, and even your friends and family use to steer your decisions, without you ever realizing what's happening. But this book is not just about how others influence you. It is about how you can influence others. How small shifts in words, tone, and timing can make people trust you, agree with you, and follow your lead without force, without pressure, without manipulation. Because influence is not about control. It is about understanding the science of human behavior, and once you understand it, you will see the world in an entirely new way. The 6 Principles of Persuasion. At the core of influence are 6 powerful principles, 6 psychological levers that determine why people say yes. 1. Reciprocity. When someone does something for us, we feel obligated to return the favor. This is why free samples work, why small favors lead to big commitments, why a simple gesture of kindness can open doors. 2. Commitment and consistency. Once people commit to something, an idea, a belief, an identity, they will go to great lengths to stay consistent with that choice. This is how small agreements turn into lifelong habits. 3. Social proof. People look to others to determine what is right. If a restaurant is packed, we assume it must be good. If everyone is doing something, we feel pressure to do it. 4. Authority. We are wired to respect and obey authority figures. Whether it's a doctor, a leader, or someone in a uniform, titles, credentials, and perceived expertise create instant credibility. 5. Liking. We are more likely to be influenced by people we like. Similarity, compliments, and familiarity all make us more receptive to persuasion. 6. Scarcity. The less available something is, the more we want it. Limited time offers exclusive deals, and rare opportunities create urgency and drive action. These principles are everywhere, hidden in marketing campaigns, political speeches, social interactions, and yet, before reading this book, most people are completely blind to them. How influence shapes your life. Think about the last time you bought something you didn't really need, the last time you changed your opinion after hearing others agree on something, the last time you felt pressure to act quickly before an offer disappeared. Was it really your decision? Or were you nudged, persuaded, subtly guided by forces you didn't even recognize? This is why influence is so powerful. It doesn't just expose how persuasion works, it makes you see the invisible. Once you understand these principles, you will start to notice them everywhere. In the way a salesperson speaks, in the design of a website, in the way people interact in social situations. And the moment you recognize persuasion in action, it loses its grip on you. Because awareness is power. Once you understand how you are being influenced, you can choose to resist. You can choose to make decisions consciously, rather than being pulled by unseen forces. You can recognize when someone is using psychological tactics against you, and instead of falling for them, you can step back and take control. But beyond defense, influence also teaches you how to use these principles ethically, how to persuade without manipulation, how to communicate more effectively, how to build trust and inspire action without force. Because persuasion, when used correctly, is not a tool of deception, is a tool of connection. Mastering influence means mastering life at its core. This book is about power, the kind of power that forces people to obey, but the kind of power that makes people want to follow you. Because the truth is, persuasion is not optional. It is the foundation of human interaction. It determines whether your ideas are heard, whether your business succeeds, whether your relationships thrive. The ability to influence is the ability to shape reality. And once you master that, the world will open up to you in ways you never imagined. Because in the end, life is a constant negotiation, a series of decisions, conversations, and moments where influence determines the outcome. The question is, will you be the one who is influenced, or the one who influences? This book gives you the answer. And once you understand it, you will never see persuasion or your own decisions the same way again. Emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman. Most people believe success is determined by intelligence, by IQ, by raw brain power, by the ability to solve complex problems and memorize facts. They assume that the smartest people will naturally rise to the top, that knowledge alone is the key to achievement. But if that were true, why do so many brilliant people struggle? Why do geniuses fail in relationships? Why do highly educated professionals make terrible leaders? Why do people with average intelligence often surpass those with the highest IQs in business, in leadership, and in life? Because intelligence alone is not enough. Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence is not just a book, it is a revolutionary shift in understanding human potential. It proves that IQ may open doors, but EQ, emotional intelligence, is what determines who walks through them. It reveals that success, both personal and professional, depends far more on our ability to navigate emotions, our own and those of others, than on raw intellectual ability. And once you understand this, you will never see yourself or the people around you the same way again. The 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. At its core, emotional intelligence is built on 5 essential skills, 5 abilities that define how we handle ourselves and interact with the world. 1. Self-awareness, the ability to recognize and understand your own emotions. Most people are controlled by their feelings without realizing it, reacting instead of responding, living at the mercy of their moods. But when you develop self-awareness, you gain control over your thoughts, your actions, your destiny. 2. Self-regulation, the ability to manage emotions rather than letting emotions manage you. Anger, fear, frustration, these are powerful forces. But emotional intelligence means not being ruled by them. It means staying calm under pressure, thinking before reacting, mastering impulse control. 3. Motivation, the inner drive to pursue goals with passion and persistence. Emotionally intelligent people don't need external rewards to push them forward. They are fueled by purpose, by resilience, by an unshakable belief in their own ability to grow. 4. Empathy, the ability to understand and connect with others on a deep emotional level. True influence, true leadership, true human connection begins with listening, with feeling what others feel, with seeing the world through their eyes. 5. Social skills, the ability to build relationships, communicate effectively, and influence people in a way that fosters cooperation and trust, whether in business, friendships, or love. Emotional intelligence is what determines the strength and longevity of human connection. These skills, Goleman proves, are what separate those who thrive from those who struggle. And yet, most people never develop them because they have spent their lives believing that intelligence is more important than emotional mastery. Why emotional intelligence changes everything? Think about it. The best leaders are not those who know the most, but those who inspire others. The best negotiators are not those with the sharpest logic, but those who understand people. The best relationships are not built on intellectual compatibility, but on emotional connection. This is why some of the most successful people in the world are not the smartest, but the ones who know how to navigate emotions. They know how to stay calm when others panic. They know how to handle conflict without making enemies. They know how to connect, to persuade, to lead. And that is why EQ, not IQ, is the greatest predictor of success. Mastering emotional intelligence means mastering life. Most people assume that emotions are weaknesses, that logic is superior, that feelings should be suppressed. But this book shatters that myth. It shows that emotions are not the enemy of intelligence. They are a crucial part of it, because in the real world, success is not about who knows the most. It's about who can handle stress, who can bounce back from failure, who can build trust, who can stay steady when others lose control. And the moment you realize this, everything changes. The frustrations that once consumed you will lose their grip. The conflicts that once seemed impossible to resolve will become opportunities to connect. You will understand people not just what they say, but what they feel. You will gain control over yourself, your thoughts, your reactions, your destiny, because emotional intelligence is not just a skill, It is the foundation of every interaction, every decision, every success in life. And once you develop it, you will never struggle in the same way again. To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee. Some books entertain, some books inform, and then there are books that do something far more profound. They change you. They force you to confront the world as it is, to question your beliefs, to see through the eyes of another. They do not simply tell a story. They hold up a mirror, revealing truths about humanity that are as uncomfortable as they are necessary. To Kill a Mockingbird is one of those books. It is not just a novel. It is a lesson in morality, in empathy, in justice. It is a book about childhood innocence, shattered by the harsh realities of a world divided by race, class, and prejudice. A book about courage, about standing for what is right, even when the world stands against you. A book that once read will never leave you. The story that opens your eyeset in the Deep South during the 1930s. The novel follows Scout Finch, a young girl growing up in a town filled with unspoken rules, with quiet injustice, with a society that claims to be moral but refuses to live by its own principles. She sees the world as children do curiously, honestly, without judgment. But as she watches her father, Atticus Finch, defend a black man falsely accused of a crime he did not commit, she begins to understand something that many adults never will. Justice is not guaranteed. Right and wrong are not always rewarded, and good people do not always win. Tom Robinson, the accused, is innocent. Everyone knows it. But in a town poisoned by racism, the truth does not matter. What matters is perception. What matters is fear. What matters is the deep, unshakable belief that some people are worth less than others. And so, despite brilliant defense, despite Scout's desperate hope, the verdict is never in doubt, because in some places, in some hearts, prejudice will always matter more than the truth. The power of Empathabot To Kill a Mockingbird is not just a book about injustice, it is a book about understanding, about stepping into someone else's shoes, seeing the world from their point of view, realizing that beneath the surface, we are more alike than we are different. Atticus teaches Scout one of the most powerful lessons in literature. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb inside his skin and walk around in it. This is what makes To Kill a Mockingbird more than just a courtroom drama, more than just a novel about racism. Is a call to empathy. A reminder that before we judge, before we condemn, before we assume, we must first try to understand. And in a world still plagued by division, by hatred, by the refusal to see others as human, this lesson is more relevant than ever. Courage in the face of fear. Most people think courage is about fearlessness, about standing tall, unshaken, in the face of danger. But Atticus Finch gives us a different definition. Real courage is when you know you're licked before you begin, but you begin anyway and see it through no matter what. He knows that defending Tom Robinson will make him a target. He knows that fighting for justice in an unjust world is a battle he cannot win. And yet, he fights anyway, not because he expects to succeed, but because it is the right thing to do. And that is what makes him one of the most powerful literary figures of all time. He does not fight for applause. He does not fight for glory. He fights because some battles must be fought, even if they cannot be won. Why this book still matters. It would be easy to say that To Kill a Mockingbird is just a story about the past, that the racism, the injustice, the moral blindness it exposes are relics of history. But they are not. They still exist. They have simply changed form. And that is why this book is still essential, because it forces us to look at the world not as we wish it to be, but as it is. Because it reminds us that morality is not just about what we believe, but about what we do. Because it asks us to decide in our own lives, whether we will stand with those who need us or remain silent in the face of injustice. This book does not just tell a story, it challenges you. It dares you to be better, to see deeper, to judge less, to stand for something even when standing is hard. And that is why, decades after it was written, To Kill a Mockingbird is still one of the most important books ever published. Because once you read it, you will never see justice, empathy, or courage the same way again. Good to Great, Jim Collins. Most companies never become great. Most businesses, no matter how promising, remain average, not because they lack potential, but because they fail to understand what truly separates greatness from mediocrity. People assume that success comes from luck, intelligence, or the right product at the right time. But if that were true, why do some companies thrive for decades, while others collapse under the weight of their own ambition? Why do some organizations quietly outperform their competition year after year, while others burn bright and fade just as quickly? Jim Collins spent years searching for the answer. In Good to Great, he unveils one of the most powerful truths in business. Greatness is not an accident, it is a choice. Why most companies stay average, many businesses operate under the illusion that growth equals greatness, that simply expanding, chasing higher profits, or dominating the market is the key to long-term success. But Collins' research proves otherwise. He analyzed companies that made the leap from good to truly great, organizations that outperformed their competition by a massive margin, not just for a few years, but for decades. And what he found was shocking. It wasn't about having the best product. It wasn't about hiring the smartest people. It wasn't even about strategy. Instead, it was about something deeper, something cultural, structural, and relentlessly disciplined. It was about a way of thinking, a way of leading, a way of building that ensured success was not just possible, but inevitable. The key principles of greatness at the core of Good to Great are a few fundamental principles that separate exceptional companies from ordinary ones. 1. Level 5. Leadership. The power of humility and resolveth. Best leaders are not the loudest. They are not the most charismatic. They do not seek the spotlight. Instead, they are quiet, determined, relentlessly focused on the mission. They do not chase personal glory. They do not build companies around their own egos. They build something that will last, something that will outlive them, Collins calls these level 5 leaders who combine humility with fierce determination, who care more about results than recognition, who focus on the work, not the credit. They are the kind of leaders who don't just demand excellence, they create it, too. The hedgehog concept. Focus on what truly matters. Great companies do not try to be everything to everyone. They do not spread themselves thin. Instead, they find one thing, one area where they can be the absolute best in the world, and they pour everything into it. Collins calls this the hedgehog concept, a strategy based on clarity, discipline, and ruthless focus. Ask yourself, what can we be the best in the world at? What are we deeply passionate about? What drives our economic engine? Where these 3 circles overlapped, that is where greatness lies. 3. The flywheel effect. The secret to lasting success. Most people think breakthroughs happen suddenly. That success comes from one big idea, one massive decision, one lucky moment. But the truth is different. Great companies do not rely on one-time efforts. They do not chase quick wins. They build momentum slowly, consistently, relentlessly until success becomes unstoppable. Collins calls this the flywheel effect, the idea that small, disciplined actions compound over time, creating a force too powerful to stop. Most businesses fail because they look for shortcuts. They try to force growth instead of earning it. Great companies, on the other hand, embrace the long game. They turn the flywheel again and again until greatness becomes inevitable. 4. Confront the brutal facts without losing faith. The best companies do not lie to themselves. They do not ignore challenges. They do not pretend things are fine when they are not. Instead, they confront reality head-on. They look at their weaknesses, their failures, their threats, and they deal with them without fear, without excuses, without denial. But here's the key. They do this without losing faith. Even in the worst moments, they never abandon their vision. They never stop believing in their ability to succeed. Because greatness is not about avoiding problems. It's about facing them with unwavering resolve. Why this book matters good to great is not just a business book. It is a blueprint for success, for leadership, for lasting impact. That it is a reminder that greatness is not a mystery. It is not luck. It is not something reserved for the chosen few. It is a process, one that any company, any team, any person can follow. Most businesses will remain average not because they lack the ability to be great, but because they lack the discipline to do what it takes. But those who embrace these principles, who commit to focus, to discipline, to leadership that serves something greater than itself, those are the ones who make the leap. Those are the ones who don't just succeed, but leave a legacy. And once you understand that greaten, the 4 agreements. Don Miguel Ruiz. Most people live in invisible chains. They do not see them, they do not feel them, but they are there, shaped by years of conditioning, by society, by the expectations of others. These chains take many forms: self-doubt, fear, guilt, the endless need to prove something, the quiet voice that whispers, "You are not enough." But what if you could break free? What if happiness was not something you needed to chase, but something you could reclaim right now, in this moment? That is the message of the 4 agreements. It is not just a book. It is a path to personal freedom, a way to escape the prison of your own mind and step into a life of clarity, peace, and self-acceptance. Don Miguel Ruiz, drawn from ancient Toltec wisdom, presents for simple but life-changing principles, 4 agreements you must make with yourself if you truly want to be free. And once you understand them, you will never live the same way again. The 4 agreements that will set you free. 1. Be impeccable with your word. Words create reality. The way you speak to yourself, to others, shapes the world you live in. Every insult, every criticism, every harsh word you direct at yourself is a seed planted in your subconscious. Over time, those seeds grow into beliefs. I am not smart enough. I will never succeed. I am not worthy of love. Most people do not realize that the most dangerous lies are the ones they tell themselves. They repeat them over and over until they become the truth. To be impeccable with your word means to speak only truth that lifts you up, that strengthens you, that aligns with who you truly are. It means refusing to use words to hurt yourself or others, because words, once spoken, cannot be taken back. They have the power to heal or destroy. And once you understand this, you will never speak carelessly again. 2. Don't take anything personal. Most people live as prisoners of other people's opinions. A single criticism ruins their day. A harsh word lingers in their mind for weeks. They allow the judgments of others to define their worth. But the 4 agreements reveals a powerful truth. Nothing others do is because of you. If someone insults you, it is not a reflection of who you are, it is a reflection of who they are. Their words, their actions, their opinions, these are shaped by their own fears, insecurities, and experiences. The moment you stop taking things personally, you become untouchable. No more feeling worthless because of someone else's anger. No more losing sleep over what others think. No more allowing negativity to poison your mind, because the truth is, You are free, but only if you choose to be. Point 3. Don't make assumptions. So much suffering comes from misunderstanding. How many relationships fall apart, not because of real problems, but because of assumptions and spoken expectations, silent resentments, misread intentions. We assume we know what others are thinking. We assume they should know what we are thinking. And when reality does not match our assumptions, we feel hurt, betrayed, disappointed. Ruiz offers a simple but life-changing alternative. Ask instead of assuming, seek clarity. Instead of creating imaginary conflicts in your mind, communicate. Instead of expecting others to read your thoughts, express them. This one shift alone can transform your relationships, your happiness, your entire experience of life, because most pain does not come from reality, it comes from the stories we tell ourselves about reality. And the moment you stop making assumptions, those stories disappear. For always do your best. Perfection is an illusion. No one is perfect. No one gets it right all the time. And yet, most people torture themselves over their mistakes, drowning in guilt, shame, and self-judgment. But what if you could let go of that weight? What if you could forgive yourself, knowing that you did the best you could in every moment? That is the final agreement. Always do your best, but understand that your best will change. Some days, your best will be extraordinary. Other days, your best will be simply getting through the day. That is okay. As long as you have given what you could, there is no reason for regret, no reason for shame, no reason to punish yourself for not being more. Because the goal is not perfection. The goal is freedom. And true freedom comes from knowing that you have done what you couldn't. That is enough. Why this book will change your life. It's easy, for agreements may seem simple. But if you live by them, they will transform everything. You will no longer be controlled by the opinions of others. You will no longer suffer from misunderstandings and false expectations. You will no longer waste energy on self-judgment, on guilt, on unnecessary pain. You will wake up every day with clarity, knowing that your words are true, your heart is light, and your actions are aligned with who you truly are. And that is what the 4 Agreements offers, not just advice, not just philosophy, but a path out of 1984. George Orwell. There are books that entertain, there are books that inform, and then there are books that warn. Books that strip away illusion, forcing you to see the world not as you wish it to be, but as it could become. Books that whisper a chilling truth. Freedom is fragile, and control, once taken, is rarely given back. 1984 is one of those books. It is not just a novel, it is a prophecy. A vision of a world where truth is rewritten, where thoughts are policed, where history is erased and replaced at will. A world where reality is no longer defined by what is but by what those in power say it is. And the most terrifying part, Orwell did not write about the future. He wrote about a cycle that has repeated throughout history, one that still echoes in the world today. And once you read this book, you will start seeing those echoes everywhere. A world without freedom. Imogen, a world where every move you make is watched. Every word you speak is monitored. Every thought you have is suspect. Where language itself is rewritten to remove the possibility of rebellion. Where history is erased and replaced overnight. Where the very concept of objective truth ceases to exist. This is the world of 1984. At its center is Winston Smith, a man who still dares to remember, who still dares to think, who still dares to believe that truth is real even if no one else believes it. But in a society controlled by the party, by the ever-present Big Brother, independent thought is not just discouraged, it is a crime, and the greatest crime of all, to see reality for what it is, because in this world, truth is whatever the party says it is. If they say 2 + 2 = 5, then it does. If they say the past never happened, then it didn't. And if you refuse to accept that, if you cling to your own perception, your own memory, your own mind, then you are a threat. And threats must be erased. The Tools of Control. Orwell does not simply describe a dystopia, he dissects how it happens, how power is taken, how freedom is dismantled, how people are turned against themselves. Newspeak, a language designed to shrink thought, to eliminate dangerous ideas before they can even be formed. Without words for rebellion, rebellion itself becomes impossible. Doublethink, the ability to hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time and accept both as true. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. If the party says it, you must believe it even. If it defies reality, telescreens devices that watch your every move, ensuring that even your expressions, even your thoughts, remain in line with party doctrine. The 2 minutes hate, a daily ritual of manufactured rage, keeping the population emotionally manipulated, directing their anger away from the party and toward enemies that may not even exist. It is not brute force that maintains control, it is psychological warfare. The slow, steady conditioning of a population to accept anything, and the most terrifying realization: these tactics are not fiction. They have been used by real governments, real regimes, real systems of power, and they are still used today. The death of the individual at its core, 1984, is about identity, about what happens when individuality is crushed, when people are made to doubt their own memories, when free will is eroded to the point where even the idea of resisting becomes unthinkable. Winston tries to fight. He dares to love, to dream, to seek truth. But in a system built to break people, rebellion is not just punished, is erased. The party does not simply want obedience, it wants total submission. It wants to control not just actions, but thoughts, not just words, but reality itself. And in the end, they win. Because Orwell does not give us a hero's triumph. He gives us a warning, a glimpse into a world where resistance is futile, where truth is flexible, where power is an end in itself. A world where, in the final moment, you do not just obey Big Brother, you love him. Why this book still matters, 1984, was written as fiction, but its warnings are real. Look around. Governments rewriting history, media shaping reality, people divided, distracted, manipulated into anger, into fear, into blind loyalty. Orwell's dystopia is not some distant nightmare, it is a reflection of forces that already exist. Forces that thrive wherever truth becomes secondary to power. This book does not simply tell a story, it challenges you. It asks, how much of what you believe is truly your own? It asks, if the world around you started rewriting truth, would you notice? It asks, what would you do if they tried to erase reality itself? And once you ask these questions, you can never unask them. Because 1984 is not just a book. It is a test of whether you will see or whether you will let yourself be blind. A test of whether, in the face of control, you will obey, or whether, even if only in your mind, you will remain free. Deep work. Cal Newport. Most people never truly focus. They spend their days jumping from task to task, drowning in notifications, scrolling endlessly, checking emails, switching between distractions, mistaking busyness for productivity. They work long hours, yet accomplish little. They struggle to concentrate, to create, to produce anything of real value. And yet, they wonder why success feels just out of reach. Cal Newport's deep work is not just a book, it is a manifesto for regaining control over your mind. It reveals a simple but life-changing truth. The ability to focus deeply is the most valuable skill in the modern world, and most people have lost it. the war on attention, live in an era designed to keep us distracted. Social media, endless notifications, infinite scrolling, all engineered to fragment our attention, to keep us reactive instead of proactive, to turn us into consumers instead of creators. But here's the hard truth. Shallow work, mindless emails, scattered thinking, passive consumption will never lead to greatness. The world does not reward those who are busy. It rewards those who can focus intensely, master complex skills, and produce work that matters. And that kind of work, what Newport calls deep work, is becoming increasingly rare, which means that those who master it gain an almost unfair advantage. The deep work formula at its core. Deep work is built on a powerful principle. Your ability to focus is like a muscle. And just like any muscle, it can be trained or it can weaken from disuse. Newport lays out a system for rebuilding your ability to concentrate, cutting out distractions, and structuring your life around meaningful, high-impact work. 1. Work deeply. Create focus rituals. Deep work does not happen by accident. You must design your environment for focus. Set strict work hours where you enter a state of full concentration. Eliminate distractions. No phone, no social media, no unnecessary interruptions. Train your brain to focus longer, building your ability to work without distraction for extended periods. The deeper you go, the more valuable your work becomes. 2. Embrace boredom. Rewire your brain for depth. Most people cannot handle even a moment of boredom. The second they feel unstimulated, they reach for their phone, their inbox, a quick dopamine hit. But Newport argues that if you constantly indulge distraction, you destroy your ability to focus. To reclaim your mind, you must stop seeking constant stimulation. Let yourself be bored. Reduce mindless scrolling and instant gratification. Train yourself to sit with discomfort, because deep work requires patience, effort, and struggle. And the truth is, your ability to focus is only as strong as your ability to resist distraction. 3. Quit social media. Cut out the noise. Social media is the enemy of deep work. It fractures attention, rewires your brain for distraction, and creates an addiction to reactivity instead of intentionality. Newport does not suggest quitting the internet entirely. Instead, he challenges you to ask, does this tool directly support my most important goals? Does it add real value to my work and life, or just steal my time? If I removed it, would my ability to focus and produce improve? And if the answer is no, then eliminate it. Because in a world full of noise, the greatest skill is learning what to ignore. 4. Drain the shallows. Ruthlessly prioritize what matters. Not all work is equal. Some tasks move the needle. They create impact. They build skills. They lead to real success. Others, they are just noise. Newport teaches the power of saying no to low-value tasks. Meetings, emails, busy work, cut them down. Batching shallow work. Instead of checking messages constantly, set fixed times to handle minor tasks. Protecting your deep work hours. Treat them like sacred time, because they are the foundation of meaningful achievement. Most people stay busy. The successful prioritize. Why this book will change your life once you understand the power of deep work. You will never approach focus the same way again. You will no longer waste hours on distractions, wondering where your time went. You will break free from the addiction to shallow work and meaningless busyness. You will train your mind to go deeper, think clearer, create better, because in the modern world, focus is a superpower, and the moment you reclaim it, you separate yourself from the distracted masses. You enter the rare category of people who actually produce work that matters. Most people will never master deep work, but those who do, They will be the ones who shape the future.